Hi guys, this is Thomas. Welcome back to History for Sleep. Tonight we are leaving our world behind. We are going to a place of dust and hope, of grinding hardship and glittering dream. The year is 1849. The place is somewhere in what will one day be called Nebraska, on the great overland road to California. Thousands upon thousands of people just like you, are walking 2,000 miles, chasing a rumor of gold, a whisper of a new life printed in a newspaper. Our mission here, as always, is not just to learn about the past, but to feel it, to inhabit it. We are going to experience one single day, from the first shock of cold before dawn to the final, exhausted surrender to sleep. So find a comfortable spot, let your body grow heavy, and close your eyes. If you enjoy this journey through time, maybe leave a like or a comment to let us know where you're listening from. It is always great to see how far these stories travel across the globe. All right, let's get into it. Here we go. The cold comes first. It is a presence, not just an absence of heat. It is a physical thing that seeps through the thin wool of your blanket, through the worn cotton of your shirt, and lays itself directly on your skin. It has a weight, a dampness. It feels ancient, like the earth itself breathing out the deep chill of the night. You are curled on your side, under the belly of the wagon. This is your bed. The hard-packed dirt, ridged and pebbled, presses into your hip and shoulder. One of the massive wheels is just inches from your face, its iron band radiating a cold more intense than the air. It smells of rust and old wood and the faint, lingering warmth of the day's sun, now long gone. You do not open your eyes yet. Instead, you listen. The world is a tapestry of quiet, pre-dawn sounds. There is the soft, rhythmic chewing of the oxen, tethered nearby. A gentle, wet, grinding sound that is a strange comfort. It is the sound of your forward motion, the sound of your potential wealth, the sound of your survival. You hear a low cough from the other side of the wagon. Your father. It is a dry, hacking sound that worries you. It has been his companion for the last 100 miles. Then there is the wind. It is never silent out here on the plains. It is a constant low moan that snakes through the grass and whispers against the canvas of the wagon cover. It carries smells, the sharp, grassy scent of the prairie, the musty animal smell of the oxen, the sour odor of unwashed bodies packed close for warmth. And beneath it all, the faint, pervasive scent of dust. It is in your clothes, in your hair, in the back of your throat. You shift your weight, and a chorus of aches makes itself known. Your back, your knees, the arches of your feet. They are not the familiar aches of farm work, the satisfying soreness of a day spent haying or ploughing. This is a deeper, more resentful pain. It is the pain of walking, just walking, for 10 or 12 hours a day, every day, for weeks that have blurred into a single, long memory of dust and motion. Your body is a machine being worn down, and this is the sound of its grinding. You are 19 years old. 6 months ago you had never been more than 20 miles from the Missouri farm where you were born. Your world was one of green fields, the smell of turned earth, the lowing of milk cows, the solid weight of an axe in your hand. Now that world feels like a dream someone else had. You are a creature of the trail now. Your name is whatever you need it to be, but your identity is simple. An emigrant, a 49er, a body moving west. Your father coughed again, longer this time, and then a wet spit. You hear him stirring, the rustle of his blanket against the dirt. The camp is beginning to wake. Not with any sudden alarm, but with a slow, grudging surrender to the coming day. A pot clangs somewhere in the darkness. A baby begins a thin, reedy cry. A man swears softly as he stumbles over a wagon tongue. This is your sleeping space. Under the wagon, with your father on one side and the cold, indifferent wheel on the other. You sleep rolled in a single blanket, your small sack of possessions for a pillow. It contains a change of shirt, a pair of socks your mother knitted before she passed, a worn Bible you have not opened in a month, and the small, heavy weight of your savings sewn into the fabric. 40 silver dollars, your entire worldly wealth, meant to buy tools and acclaim, should you ever reach the gold fields. The canvas wagon cover above you flaps in the wind, a sound like a tired sigh. It is your only roof against the vast, empty sky. Looking at that canvas from below, you can see the faint outlines of the wooden hoops that support it, dark ribs against the lightening grey of the pre-dawn light. It feels like being inside the belly of some great sleeping beast, and in a way, you are. This wagon, this prairie schooner, is your home, your fortress, your burden. A quirky detail about these wagons is that almost no one called them Conestogas. The big, heavy Conestoga wagons were freight haulers used back east. The typical emigrant wagon was smaller, lighter, with a flat bottom instead of a curved one, better suited for the varied terrain of the trail. Calling it a prairie schooner was a touch of poetry in a brutally practical world, a name that captured the way their white canvas covers looked like sails as they moved in a long line across the sea of grass. You finally open your eyes. The world is shades of grey and deep blue. The silhouettes of the other wagons in the circle are like sleeping animals hunched against the cold. A few small fires are beginning to flicker to life, tiny orange stars in the gloom. The air tastes of wood smoke and damp earth. It is time to get up. The day does not wait. The act of rising is a negotiation with your own body. You do not simply stand. You uncurl, slowly testing each joint. You push yourself up onto one elbow, your muscles screaming in protest. The cold ground has leached all the warmth from you. You feel stiff, ancient. You sit up fully, pulling the thin blanket around your shoulders, and the world swims for a moment. Dust, always the dust. You can feel the grit of it between your teeth. Your father is already on his feet, a tall, gaunt shadow against the growing light. He does not say good morning. He rarely speaks before the sun is fully up. He simply hands you one of the empty water buckets. The command is unspoken, understood. The first task of the day. You take the bucket, the cold metal of the handle biting into your palm. You stand, and the pain in your feet is a sharp, electric shock. Blisters, you know. Old ones have hardened into calluses, but new ones are always forming. You force yourself to put your full weight down, to walk. The first dozen steps are agony. Then, a dull numbness begins to set in. This is the rhythm of the trail. Pain, then numbness, then motion. You walk away from the circle of wagons, toward the creek you camped by last night. The grass is wet with dew, soaking the bottom of your trousers, the cold seeping instantly through the worn leather of your boots. Other figures move in the gloom, men and women, all bent on the same task. There is a communal understanding in the silence. No one wastes energy on pleasantries. The day will demand all the energy you have. The creek is a ribbon of black, reflecting the pale sky. The water is so cold it makes your teeth ache just to look at it. You kneel on the muddy bank, plunge the bucket in. The splash is loud in the stillness. As you pull the heavy bucket out, your hands burn with the cold. You have to switch hands twice on the walk back, the wire handle cutting into your numb fingers. Back at your wagon, your father has the fire going. He is a master of fire. He can coax a flame from the most stubborn, damp wood, or, as is often the case out here, from a pile of dried buffalo dung. These buffalo chips are the fuel of the prairie. They burn hot and fast with a surprisingly clean, grassy smell. A mainstream historical fact that often surprises people is the sheer importance of this dung. The plains were largely treeless, and without a ready source of fuel, emigrants would have had no way to cook their food or boil water to make it safe. Teams of children and women would spend hours each day walking alongside the wagons, sacks in hand, collecting these precious dried gifts from the buffalo. It was a vital, if unglamorous, part of survival. You pour some of the water into the big cast-iron pot your father has set over the flames. He adds a handful of cornmeal from a sack, stirring it with a wooden spoon. Mush, it is the breakfast of the trail. Sometimes there is bacon, if the last supply stop was not too long ago. Sometimes there is hardtack, a flour and water biscuit baked so hard it could supposedly stop a bullet. But most days it is mush. While the mush cooks, you attend to another vital ritual: the coffee. Your father lifts the small battered coffee pot and measures out the grounds with a reverence usually reserved for prayer. The beans were bought in St. Joseph, green and raw. Every few days you roast them in a skillet over the fire until they are dark and fragrant. Then grind them against a rock with the butt of a knife. It is a laborious process, but the result is the one true luxury of this life. He adds water and sets the pot in the coals at the edge of the fire. Soon the smell begins to rise, rich, dark, and bitter. It is the smell of civilization. It is a promise that you are still human, not just a beast of burden like the oxen. It is the one moment of the morning that feels like a pleasure rather than a chore. Your father hands you a tin plate with a scoop of the thick, steaming mush. You take it and sit on a spare yoke, your back against the wagon wheel. You eat quickly, mechanically. The mush is bland, gritty, but hot. It fills your belly, provides the fuel you will need. You do not savor it. Food is not for savoring anymore. It is for burning. You watch the camp come to life around you. The sun is now a red smear on the eastern horizon. The light catches the canvas tops of the wagons, making them glow. The sounds are louder now, the crying of children, the sharp commands of men, the clatter of pots and pans, the lowing and braying of hundreds of animals. It is a temporary city, a canvas town that rises with the sun and vanishes with the morning mist, leaving only wheel ruts and the ashes of its fires behind. You see a woman a few wagons down, trying to soothe a crying baby while also kneading dough on a small board. You see a group of men arguing over a map, their voices sharp with anxiety. You see two small boys chasing each other, their laughter a strange and fragile sound in this harsh place. Everyone is caught in the same relentless machinery of the morning routine. Your father hands you a tin cup of coffee. It is black, strong, and scalding hot. You hold the cup in both hands, letting the heat seep into your frozen fingers. You take a sip. The bitterness shocks your tongue, but the warmth spreads through your chest, a small private sunrise. This is what it takes to face the day. A belly full of mush and a cup of bitter coffee. Your father sips his own coffee, staring out at the horizon. His face, in the early light, is a road map of hardship. The skin is tanned to the color of old leather, creased with lines of worry and sun. He is not an old man, 43, you think, but the trail is aging him in dog years. He lost your mother to fever in the winter, and something in him seemed to dry up and blow away, like the dust you now live in. The gold, he said, was a chance to start over. A new life. You were not sure you believed him, but you could not let him go alone. He finishes his coffee and stands up. "Yoke up," he says. Just 2 words, the official start of the working day. You rinse your plate and cup with a splash of water from the bucket, scrubbing them clean with a handful of grass. Everything is packed away with swift, practiced efficiency. The pot, the skillet, the sack of cornmeal. Every item has its place in the wagon, packed and repacked so many times you could do it in your sleep. Order and routine are the only defenses against the chaos of the trail. The wagon itself is a marvel of compact living. It is packed with everything you own, everything you need to survive this journey and start a new life. Sacks of flour, cornmeal, and bacon are packed at the bottom, providing a low center of gravity. On top of those are tools, axes, shovels, picks, a gold pan. Then your clothes, the bedding, a small wooden chest with your mother's few precious things. Every inch of space is used. It is a cramped, claustrophobic space and a constant source of anxiety. Do you have enough? Will it last? Now comes the hardest part of the morning. Yoking the oxen. Their names are Buck and Bill. They are your family's most valuable possession, more valuable than the wagon itself. Without them, you are stranded. You are dead. You approach them slowly, speaking in a low, calm voice. They are huge animals, patient and placid, but they can be stubborn. The yoke is a heavy, curved piece of wood that sits across their necks. It is a monstrously heavy and awkward thing to lift. You and your father hoist it together, your muscles straining. You guide it over Buck's neck first, then Bill's, fitting the wooden bows under their throats and securing them with pins. The animals shift and sigh, their warm, grassy breath misting in the cold air. They know the routine. They are veterans of the trail, just like you. You connect the yoke to the long tongue of the wagon with a heavy iron ring and pin. You check the chains, you check the harness. You walk the length of the wagon, your eyes scanning for any potential problems. A loose board, a fraying rope, a wheel that looks a little wobbly. Maintenance is constant. A small problem ignored today can become a disaster tomorrow. A mainstream historical fact is that the leading cause of death on the trail was not, as many imagine, from conflicts with Native Americans. It was from disease and accidents. Cholera, spread by contaminated water sources, could sweep through a wagon train and kill dozens in a matter of days. But just as deadly were the mundane accidents, children falling from wagons, men being crushed by wheels, and accidental gunshot wounds from the mishandling of the firearms everyone carried. The trail was a place of 1,000 small, deadly risks. All around you the same scene is being repeated. The air is filled with the clink of chains, the creak of wood, the low exhortations of men, and the patient stamping of cattle. The entire canvas city is preparing to move. It is a slow, ponderous, and yet incredibly organized process. There is a wagon captain, elected by the company for the journey, who dictates the pace and the order of travel. A horn blows, a single clear note that cuts through the morning clamor. It is the signal from the captain. Time to move out. Your father takes his position on the left side of the oxen, holding the long whip, though he rarely uses it. A quiet word, a gee or a haw, is usually enough. Your place is on the other side, or sometimes walking ahead to clear the path of large rocks. Up, your father calls out, a short, sharp command. The oxen lean forward, their massive shoulders straining against the yoke. The chains pull taut. The wagon groans, shudders, and then, with a final wrenching squeal from the axles, it begins to roll. The first steps are always a shock to the system. Your body, which had just begun to thaw by the fire, is once again subjected to the brutal reality of motion. The ground is uneven. Your feet find rocks and ruts. The pain in your blisters flares anew, but you fall into the rhythm. Left foot, right foot. The wagon wheel beside you turns, a constant hypnotic companion. You join the long, snaking line of wagons pulling out of the campsite. Dozens of them, maybe 100, stretching for a mile ahead and a mile behind. A river of canvas and wood and humanity, flowing slowly, inexorably west. The sun is up now, a pale yellow disk in a vast, cloudless sky. It offers little warmth yet, but you know that in a few hours it will be your tormentor. For now the air is still crisp and cold. You pull your hat down low, tuck your chin into your collar, and walk. The sound is a symphony of monotony, the squeak and groan of your wagon's axles, a sound you know as intimately as your own breathing. The plodding rhythmic thud of the oxen's hooves, the soft scuff of your own boots in the dust, the distant rumble of the dozens of other wagons. These are the sounds of your life now. You have come to find them comforting. Silence is what is frightening. Silence means you are alone, or that something is broken. Your mind, in these first hours of the day, is usually empty. It is not a time for thinking or worrying. It is a time for your body to acclimate to the work. Your thoughts are simple, tethered to the immediate present. Watch that rock. The ground is softer here. Bill is favoring his left foreleg. The wagon behind is getting a little too close. You look out at the landscape. It is the same as yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. A vast, rolling sea of grass, green and gold under the morning sun. It is beautiful, in a stark, intimidating way. But it is also terrifyingly empty. The sky is too big. The horizon is too far away. You feel small, insignificant, an ant crawling across a giant's floor. Back home, the world was full of landmarks. The old oak tree, the neighbor's barn, the bend in the river. Out here, there is nothing. You navigate by the sun, by the river you are following, the Platte, a mile wide and an inch deep, they call it, and by the ruts of the thousands of wagons that have passed this way before you. You are not a pioneer in the true sense. You are a follower, treading a well-worn path of hope and desperation. You pass a grave. It is a simple wooden cross, hastily made from a broken crate panel. A name is crudely carved into it. Mary, aged 6. There is a small pile of stones at its base to keep the wolves from digging. You have passed dozens of such graves. They are as common a landmark as the river. Each one is a silent testament to a story that ended too soon, a dream that turned to dust. You glance at your father. He does not look at the grave. He keeps his eyes fixed on the horizon. A quirky detail of trail life was the roadside telegraph. Emigrants would leave messages for those coming behind them, written on bleached buffalo skulls, on large flat rocks, or on boards torn from their own wagons. Good water ahead, no grass for 10 miles, beware of quicksand at the next crossing. It was a primitive but vital information network, a way for this scattered community to help itself. You have found comfort in these messages, reminders that you are not entirely alone in this vast emptiness. The sun climbs higher. The day begins to warm. You take off your jacket and tie it around your waist. The dust kicked up by the oxen and the wagons ahead begins to rise, forming a constant choking cloud. You pull your neckerchief up over your nose and mouth, but it does little good. You taste the grit in every breath. The monotony is the real enemy. More than the rivers, more than the mountains, more than the fear of sickness. It is the sameness of it all. The same sky, the same grass, the same motion, the same squeaking axle. Your mind starts to wander, to drift, to escape the crushing boredom of the present moment. You think of home. Not the sad, quiet house after your mother was gone, but the years before. You remember the smell of her baking bread, a warm, yeasty scent that filled the whole cabin. You remember the feel of cool mud between your toes as you walked the edge of the creek in summer. You remember the face of Sarah, the blacksmith's daughter, the way she smiled at you at the last town social. These memories are a comfort, but also a torment. They are from a life that no longer exists, a you that is gone forever. Does she remember you? Do you remember you? The boy who thought his biggest worry was getting the corn harvested before the first frost seems like a stranger now, a soft and naive creature you can barely recognize. The trail strips you down to your essential self, a body that walks, a stomach that hungers, a mind that endures. Your father's voice cuts through your reverie. Water. He points with the whip. Up ahead, a small tributary of the main river crosses the trail. The wagon train is slowing, preparing for the crossing. This is a moment of heightened tension. A river crossing, even a small one, is fraught with danger. Wagons can get stuck in the mud, axles can break, animals can be swept away. You and your father work as a team. You wade into the cold, calf-deep water ahead of the oxen, checking the riverbed for deep holes or large rocks. The current is stronger than it looks, pulling at your legs. Your father guides the team from the bank, his voice low and steady, calming the nervous animals. The wagon lurches down the muddy bank and into the water. The wheels sink into the soft bottom. For a moment it feels like you are stuck. The oxen strain, their hooves slipping. "Hup! Hup now!" your father yells, his voice cracking with effort. You put your shoulder to the wheel, pushing with all your might. The great wheel, taller than you, resists, covered in slick mud. Then, with a great sucking sound, it pulls free. The wagon rolls forward, up the opposite bank, and onto solid ground. You stand in the water for a moment, breathing heavily, your trousers soaked to the thigh. You are muddy, cold, and exhausted. And you have only been walking for 3 hours. The rest of the day stretches before you, a vast, uninviting landscape. You slog out of the water and fall back into your position beside the turning wheel. Left foot, right foot. The journey continues. The sun reaches its zenith. The heat becomes a physical pressure. There is no shade, not a single tree, just the endless grass and the endless sky. The light is blinding, reflecting off the pale dust. Sweat runs in rivers down your face, carving clean paths through the grime. It drips from your nose and chin, leaving dark spots on your shirt. The air shimmers with the heat. The wagon train ahead of you seems to float and distort in the haze. The sounds of the trail change. The creaking of the wood seems louder, more strained. The dust is thicker, a fine powder that coats everything in a layer of pale grey. It works its way into your eyes, making them red and raw. It clogs your nostrils. It forms a muddy paste in your mouth. Section U are constantly thirsty. You have a canteen, but you ration the water, taking only small sips of the lukewarm, metallic-tasting liquid. Water is life. Finding it is the central organizing principle of each day. You camp by it at night, and you pray you will find more by the next evening. Sometime around noon, the captain gives the signal to halt. A great collective sigh seems to pass through the wagon train. The motion stops. The sudden stillness is jarring. Your body, so accustomed to the rhythm of walking, feels strange and unbalanced. Your ears ring in the relative silence. This is the midday break. It is not for rest, not really. It is for maintenance and a quick meal. You unhitch the oxen and lead them to a patch of grass, letting them graze and drink from a bucket you have filled. Their well-being is paramount. You check their hooves for stones and cracks. You run your hands over their bodies, checking for sores from the yoke. While you tend the animals, your father inspects the wagon. He checks the wheels again, tapping them with a hammer, listening to the sound they make. He takes the bucket of pine tar that hangs from the rear axle and daubs the thick, sticky grease onto the hubs. The smell of the hot tar is acrid and sharp, but it is the smell of foresight, of preventing a breakdown that could leave you stranded. Lunch is a Spartan affair. There is no time to build a fire. You eat cold leftovers from breakfast or gnaw on a piece of hardtack. Today you sit in the sliver of shade cast by the wagon and eat a handful of cold beans from a tin plate. They are greasy and tasteless, but they are calories. You chew slowly, deliberately, trying to ignore the fine layer of dust that has already settled on your food. A mainstream historical fact about the trail diet is its profound lack of variety and nutrition. Emigrants subsisted on a monotonous diet of bacon, beans, bread, and coffee. Fresh fruits and vegetables were non-existent. This led to widespread malnutrition and diseases like scurvy, which caused weakness, bleeding gums, and eventually death. Some resourceful emigrants would gather wild greens when they could, but for the most part, the journey was a long, slow process of dietary depletion. You have 30 minutes, 30 precious minutes of not walking. You do not talk to your father. You do not talk to anyone. You find a patch of ground, lean your back against the warm wood of the wagon wheel, and close your eyes. You do not sleep. You are too tense, too aware of the brevity of this respite. You simply allow the full weight of your exhaustion to settle upon you. Every muscle in your body hums with a low-grade pain. Your feet throb in your boots. Your shoulders ache from the tension of the morning. Your head feels thick and heavy from the sun and the dust. This brief stop is both a blessing and a curse. It allows the pain you have been ignoring to rush back in, to make its presence fully known. You drift. You are not thinking, just feeling. The heat of the sun on your face, the hard ground beneath you, the faint, distant sound of someone trying to play a harmonica, the notes wavering and sad in the vast emptiness. You feel a profound sense of weariness that has nothing to do with a single day's labor. It is a weariness of the soul, a bone-deep exhaustion from the sheer grinding effort of it all. The horn blows again. The sound is brutal, an unwelcome intrusion into your brief peace. The break is over. A collective groan rises from the camp. Men and women rise stiffly, their bodies protesting. The thought of starting to walk again is almost unbearable. You force yourself to your feet. Your legs feel like lead. You fetch the oxen who seem as reluctant as you are. You guide them back to the wagon tongue, rehitch the chains, and secure the yoke. The familiar motions are automatic, requiring no thought. You take your place. Your father takes his. The call goes up. The whips crack. The wagons groan. The great, slow river of humanity begins to move again. The afternoon has begun. If the morning was a grind, the afternoon is an ordeal. The sun is now a malevolent white eye in a bleached-out sky. The heat is no longer just pressure. It is a physical blow. It radiates up from the baked earth. It beats down from above. The air you breathe is hot and dry, searing your lungs. The landscape has become an antagonist. The rolling hills of the morning have flattened into a seemingly endless plain. There is nothing to look at, nothing to break the monotony. The horizon is a flat, shimmering line that never seems to get any closer. The world has been reduced to three elements: the pale brown of the earth, the pale blue of the sky, and the pale canvas of the wagon train. Your body moves into a different state of being. The sharp pains of the morning have subsided into a dull, pervasive ache. Your feet are numb. Your legs move of their own accord, a pendulum of bone and muscle that has forgotten how to stop. You are no longer consciously walking. You are simply being propelled forward by the momentum of the train. This is the honest struggle. There is no heroism in it. There is no adventure. It is the slow, methodical, unglamorous work of endurance. Your goal is not to conquer the wilderness. It is simply to survive until sunset, to put one foot in front of the other again and again and again. You count your steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up to 100, then you start again. It is a game to keep your mind from dissolving into the shimmering heat. Your mind drifts to stranger places in the afternoon. The memories of home are too painful now, too distant. Instead, you fall into a state of waking dream. You imagine water, cool, clear water. You imagine diving into a river, the shock of the cold on your hot skin. You imagine drinking from a spring, the water so cold it makes your teeth hurt. You can almost feel it, taste it. The hallucination is so vivid it makes your real thirst even more acute. You look over at your father. He walks with his head down, his shoulders slumped. He looks like a man being dragged forward against his will. You worry about him. He seems smaller than he did back in Missouri, as if the trail is slowly whittling him away. You remember his booming laugh, the strength in his hands as he split logs. You have not heard him laugh in months. The dust is at its worst in the afternoon. The constant movement of thousands of hooves and hundreds of wheels pulverizes the dry earth into a fine, flour-like powder. It hangs in the air, a permanent yellow-grey fog that stretches for miles. You breathe it, you eat it, you wear it. At night you wash the outer layer of it from your face, but you know it has settled deep inside you, in your lungs and in your soul. A mainstream historical fact is that the Oregon-California Trail in 1849 was less a path and more a corridor of destruction. In this peak year of migration, the sheer volume of traffic created a massive, barren highway. The grass for several miles on either side of the trail was often completely consumed by the emigrants' livestock, forcing later travelers to range farther and farther afield to find forage. The water was fouled, the little available timber was consumed, and the landscape was littered with abandoned equipment, animal carcasses, and lonely graves. You are not traveling through a pristine wilderness. You are traveling through the wake of a human flood. You see evidence of this all around you. A broken chair, its fine carving incongruous in the dirt. A stack of books, their pages fluttering in the wind, their owner having decided that the weight of knowledge was too much to bear. And the bones, the skeletons of oxen and mules, picked clean by scavengers, bleached white by the sun. They are a constant reminder of the fine line between moving forward and coming to a permanent, final halt. Your mind begins to play tricks on you. In the shimmering heat, a distant clump of sagebrush looks like a hunched animal. A rock formation on the horizon becomes a fort, a town, a sign of civilization. You blink, and it dissolves back into nothing. The emptiness is a canvas, and your heat-addled brain paints mirages upon it. The sheer scale of the journey begins to press in on you. You have been on the trail for 2 months, you have walked nearly 600 miles, and you are not even a third of the way there. Ahead lie the deserts, the salt flats, and the great, terrifying wall of the Sierra Nevada mountains. The thought is too large to hold in your mind. It is a physical weight that threatens to crush you. So you shrink your world. You do not think about California. You do not think about tomorrow. You think only about the next step and the next. Your entire existence is reduced to the few square feet of dusty ground in front of you. The back of the ox, the turning of the wheel, the scuff of your boots. This is how you survive. You make the world small enough to bear. You think about gold. The reason you are here. You try to picture it. A nugget in your hand, heavy and yellow. A stream glittering with flakes. The idea feels as unreal as the mirages on the horizon. It is a story someone told you, a fever dream that has somehow convinced 100,000 people to leave their homes and walk across a continent. Right now, in this moment, you would trade all the gold in California for a single glass of cold water and 5 minutes in the shade of an oak tree. Someone up ahead starts singing. A woman's voice, thin and wavering, but clear. It is a hymn, a song of faith and perseverance. A few other voices join in, ragged and out of tune, but heartfelt. The song drifts back to you on the hot wind. For a moment it lifts your spirits. It is a reminder that you are part of a community, a fellowship of sufferers. You are all in this together, pulling your lives behind you in wooden boxes, walking toward a shared dream. But the song fades, the heat and the dust and the monotony return. The brief moment of connection is swallowed by the vast indifference of the landscape. You are alone again, inside your own head. With the rhythm of your own aching feet, you watch a hawk circling high above, a black speck against the featureless blue. You envy its perspective. It can see the whole train, the beginning and the end. It can see the river, the distant mountains. It can see a way out. You are trapped on the ground, able to see only the dust and the back of the wagon in front of you. Your view is one of perpetual, grinding sameness. The sun begins its slow descent toward the western horizon. The light softens, turning from white to gold. The shadows of the wagon stretch out long and thin across the prairie. The heat begins to lose its sharpest edge. A collective shift in mood ripples through the train. The end of the day is in sight. This is often the most dangerous time of day. Exhaustion makes people careless. Men stumble. Animals grow weary and difficult to manage. Your focus, which has been dulled by the afternoon's monotony, must now be sharpened. You watch the ground more carefully. You pay closer attention to the oxen. One mistake, one moment of inattention, could lead to a broken wheel or a broken leg. The captain rides his horse up and down the line, scouting for a suitable place to make camp. He is looking for the holy trinity of the trail: water, grass, and fuel. Finding all three at the end of a long day is a gift from God. Finally, you see him stop, far ahead. He raises his arm. The signal travels down the line, a wave of relief passed from one wagon to the next. The lead wagons begin to pull off the trail, forming the familiar circle. The feeling of stopping is profound. Your body, which has been in motion for 12 hours, does not know what to do with stillness. You stumble, your legs continuing to walk for a step or two before your brain catches up. A deep shudder runs through you as the machinery of your body grinds to a halt. The day's labor is not over. In some ways, it has just begun. The evening is a race against the dying light, a flurry of essential chores. Your father guides the wagon into its assigned spot in the circle. The circle is a defensive formation, a tradition from the early days of the trail, but it is also a corral for the livestock and a frame for the small, temporary community of the night. The wagons are parked tongue to tail, creating a solid wooden wall. First, the animals. Always the animals first. You unyoke Buck and Bill, their heavy, warm bodies sighing with relief. You lead them to the river to drink, letting them take their fill. Then you hobble them, tying their front legs loosely together so they can graze without wandering too far. Their soft chewing and the swish of their tails are the background music of the evening. While you see to the oxen, your father gathers fuel. There are no trees here, so it is buffalo chips again. He comes back with his arms full of the dry, lightweight discs. He builds the fire in the center of the space created by your wagon, a small beacon against the coming darkness. The camp is a hive of activity. Women are starting cooking fires. Men are making repairs to wagons and equipment. Children, suddenly released from the confinement of the long day, are running and shouting, their energy seeming boundless. The air fills with the smells of dozens of cooking fires, the sound of axes splitting kindling, the low murmur of conversation. You fetch water again, your second trip of the day. Your legs are heavy, your feet on fire. Every step is an effort. You fill the buckets and haul them back to camp. Some is for cooking, some for washing, some for the animals. The evening meal is a repeat of breakfast. Mush or perhaps some bacon fried in its own grease with hard biscuits to sop it up. You eat sitting by the fire, the heat welcome now as the prairie air begins to cool rapidly with the setting of the sun. The sky to the west is a riot of orange and purple and red. It is breathtakingly beautiful. You watch it, your tin plate in your lap, and for a few minutes you forget your weariness. You forget the dust and the pain. You are just a boy, watching a sunset. It is a fleeting moment of grace in a graceless world. After the meal, there is a brief period that might be called leisure. It is not rest, but a change of work. Your father takes out his rifle and a cleaning kit. He meticulously cleans the weapon, his hands moving with practiced care. In this land, a functioning firearm is a necessity, as much for hunting as for the illusion of protection. You take off your boots. This is the moment you both dread and long for all day. The relief of releasing your swollen, constricted feet is immense, but it is followed by the pain of seeing them. They are a mess of blisters, raw spots, and deep, painful cracks. You take a rag and a little of the precious water and gently clean them. You have a small tin of salve your father bought, a greasy substance that smells of camphor. You rub it into the worst of the sores. It stings, but you know it helps keep the infection away. A quirky detail about trail medicine is that it was a strange mix of practical knowledge and folk remedies. Most emigrants carried a small medical kit containing things like laudanum, an opium tincture for pain, calomel, a mercury compound used as a purgative, and quinine for fevers. But they also relied on poultices, herbal teas, and a good deal of prayer. Often, the cure was as dangerous as the disease. The mercury in calomel, for example, could cause permanent damage, and overdoses of laudanum were common. As darkness falls, the mood of the camp changes. The frantic energy of the chores gives way to a quiet, communal weariness. A man a few wagons down brings out a fiddle. He plays a series of sad, slow tunes, a reel from back home, a mournful ballad. The music hangs in the cool night air, a thread of shared memory and longing that connects everyone in the circle. No one claps, they just listen, staring into their own fires, lost in their own thoughts. Your father finishes with his rifle and sits staring into the flames. You sit beside him. You do not speak for a long time. The silence between you is not awkward. It is the comfortable silence of two people who have been through too much together to need words. "Saw a marker today?" you say, your voice quiet. "For a child." Your father nods slowly. He does not look at you. "There will be more," he says. His voice is flat, devoid of emotion. It is a statement of fact, not of prophecy. This is his way of coping, to accept the harsh reality, to not allow sentiment to weaken him. You wonder if he is strong, or if he is just empty. He looks at your feet, which you are tending by the firelight. "Keep them clean," he says. "A man is no good if he can't walk." It is the closest he will come to expressing concern. It is enough. The camp settles down for the night. The fires burn down to glowing embers. The fiddle player puts his instrument away. The conversations die out, replaced by the sounds of the prairie night, the chirping of crickets, the distant yip of a coyote, the ever-present whisper of the wind in the grass. It is time for the final preparations. You bank the fire, covering the hot coals with ash, so they will still be warm in the morning, ready to be brought back to life. You check on the oxen one last time, making sure their hobbles are secure. Then you retrieve your thin blanket from the wagon and spread it on the ground in your accustomed spot. The earth is cold, already leaching the day's warmth. The ground feels harder now than it did in the morning, or perhaps your body is just more sensitive to its unforgiving nature. You lie down. The act of becoming horizontal is not a simple relief. It is a reckoning. Every ache and pain that you held at bay during the day comes rushing back with a vengeance. Your back spasms, your knees throb, your feet feel like they are being stabbed with 1,000 tiny needles. You curl into a ball, pulling the blanket tight around you, trying to find a position that offers some small measure of comfort. There is none. You lie on your back and look up. The sky is a revelation. Without the light of cities or towns, the stars are a brilliant, shocking spectacle. They are not just scattered points of light. They are a thick, shimmering river of silver dust, so dense and bright it feels like you could reach up and touch it. The Milky Way. You have never seen it like this. It is terrifying and beautiful, a vision of infinity that makes you and your troubles feel impossibly small. Your mind, which was blessedly numb for much of the day, comes alive in the darkness. This is the time for worry. The anxieties you kept packed away during the day now spill out, circling like wolves. Did you check the wagon axle properly? Is that cough of your father's getting worse? You saw him stumble today. Is he weaker than he is letting on? The flour sack felt a little lighter this morning. Will you have enough to get through the mountains? What if the oxen get sick? What if you get sick? You think of the cholera, the quick, violent way it takes people. You drank from the river today. Was the water clean? The fears are endless, a rotating litany of potential disasters. They are followed by the ghosts of regret. Should you have come? Should you have stayed in Missouri? tried to make a go of the farm, even without your mother? You sold it for almost nothing to get the money for this venture. There is no going back. The bridges are burned. The only way is forward, into the vast, terrifying unknown. You think of the gold again. It seems more real at night, a warm, glowing promise of darkness. You imagine finding it, the weight of it in your pockets. You imagine the life it could buy. A new farm, a better one. A solid house with a real roof. Maybe you could send for Sarah. You imagine her face, but it is already starting to fade, the details blurring. The past is slipping away from you, and the future is a terrifying blank. You are trapped in this endless, brutal present. You roll onto your side, facing the dark shape of the wagon wheel. You close your eyes, but sleep does not come. You can hear the sounds of the sleeping camp. A man snoring loudly in the next wagon. A child crying out in a dream. The soft chewing of the oxen. These sounds are a small comfort. They are the sounds of other people, just as tired, just as worried, just as human as you are. The wind picks up, making the canvas wagon cover flap and snap. It sounds like a restless spirit. You pull the blanket over your head, trying to block out the sound, trying to find a small pocket of warmth and silence. Your thoughts begin to fragment, to lose their sharp edges. The worries blur into a general sense of dread. The memories of home soften into a dull ache of loss. Your body, having catalogued all its pains, begins to finally, slowly let go. The tension in your shoulders eases. The throbbing in your feet subsides into a distant hum. You are drifting now, on the edge of consciousness. The hard ground beneath you feels less solid. The cold air feels less sharp. You are floating in the great, dark space between one day's exhaustion and the next day's labor. And as you drift, you feel the vastness of it all. You are one person, on one patch of dirt, in one night, in the middle of a continent. But you are also part of something immense, a great human river flowing west, a current of hope and greed and desperation and courage. You are a single drop of water in that river. Your story is your own, but it is also the story of thousands. You survived another day. You endured. That is the victory. The quiet, uncelebrated victory of putting one foot in front of the other until the sun went down. The human story is not always about grand battles or brilliant inventions. More often than not, it is about this, the simple, profound, and deeply human act of getting through the day and earning the deep, dreamless rest of the weary. It is a story written in the dust of 1,000 trails, in the sweat of 1,000,000 brows, a story as old as the first time someone left home in search of something better. It is a story of survival, of resilience, of the stubborn, quiet hope that tomorrow might be different, that the next horizon might be the one. And now your journey for today is over too. Your work is done. You have walked the miles. You have felt the sun and the dust. You have earned your rest. And so you let go. You fall into the deep, dark, merciful well of sleep. May your own rest be as deep and as earned as the sleep of the traveler you have become tonight. May your worries fade into the darkness, and may your dreams be peaceful. Good night, sweet dreams.